Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about one of the greatest TV shows of all time and one of my personal favorites, and that is Desperate Housewives. For those who don't know, Desperate Housewives aired for 8 seasons on ABC from 2004 to 2012. I didn't start watching the show until I was in college around like 2015, 2016, and my life was changed because that's one of my favorite shows. I love it so much. So originally last summer, I planned on doing this really big video. Like I was going to talk about all the seasons. I printed out a lot of the characters because I was going to do like a wall where like I was going to like be standing up and doing this huge video. It's going to be like hours long. But it was a big task, and I tried to do it multiple times, like filming it, and it just did not come out how I wanted it to. And now that I'm trying to upload weekly, I just don't have time to do this massive video. So I'm gonna give you guys the rundown of every single season of the show, and I'm gonna keep it, as like concise as possible, but also give you guys the tea. As mentioned in the intro, Desperate Housewives aired on ABC for 8 seasons. The show features an ensemble cast with the main 4 housewives being Susan Meyer, played by Terry Hatcher, Bree, played by Marsha Cross, Gabrielle Solis, played by Eva Longoria, and Lynette Scavo, played by Felicity Huffman. The premise of the show follows the lives of these women as well as their neighbors who live on the iconic street Wisteria Lane in a town called Fairview. Each season has a main mystery that must be solved. Season 1's main mystery is the suicide of Mary Alice Young, another housewife on the lane that was a part of the main 4 ladies friend group. Mary Alice is played by Brenda Strong, and she would go on to narrate nearly every single episode of the series as she watched her friends from the grave. The mystery isn't necessarily her suicide, but the reason why she did it. The show pulled insane numbers in its first season. The pilot episode pulled 21.64 million viewers, and the finale would end up pulling 30.62 million viewers. And this is 2004, okay? This is before streaming. TiVo might have been a thing, but not many people had it. So like, if you wanted to watch Desperate Housewives, you had to get in front of the TV and sit your ass down on the couch and tune in on Sunday nights on ABC at 9 p.m. when the show aired. Fun fact, Desperate Housewives actually inspired the Real Housewives series on Bravo. If you guys watch the intro of all the Real Housewives series where they hold out a symbol of the city they're in, that actually comes from Desperate Housewives intro, which is the thumbnail of this video where they hold out apples. So the more you know. Season 1 of Desperate Housewives was nominated for 15 Primetime Emmys in 2005, winning 6 of them, including Felicity Huffman winning Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series, where Terry Hatcher and Marsha Cross was also nominated. The same 3 ladies will also be nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy Television Series, which Terry Hatcher ended up winning. The show as a whole won the Golden Globe for Best Musical or Comedy Series. Now that all of that background info is out of the way, let's get into the tea, which is Season 1 of Desperate Housewives, which in my opinion is golden TV. So as I mentioned in the intro, every season of Desperate Housewives has a main mystery that needs to be solved, and this season is the unaliving of Mary Alice Young in the pilot episode. The story gets very convoluted and very I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's like a very complicated web. And I'm gonna try to keep it as concise as I can, but tell you guys all the important information without getting too in depth, because like I said, I really wish I could do a bigger video, but I mean, I work a 9 to 5 and I'm trying to upload weekly, so I just can't. I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna give you guys all the tea that's important, so bear with me. I'm gonna start off with Lynette's storyline because I feel like she has like the calmest storyline compared to the other 3 ladies, so let's start with her. So her main storyline this season is her struggles with being a stay-at-home mom. She has a husband named Tom who is a businessman, and he is always away on business or just at work, and together they have 4 kids. They have twins, Preston and Porter, as well as Parker and then baby Penny. Her biggest plot point this season is her becoming addicted to her kids' ADHD medication. She uses them to have the energy to watch the kids as well as do other things, like she really gets involved in her kids' school play, as well as her husband Tom, who had asked her to throw a dinner party for him and his colleagues very last minute. She does try to get help for this. She does go see a therapist, but she continues to use it to the point where she starts hallucinating, unaliving herself, and she does eventually get off of it after the help of her friends.
And I started taking the pills because they gave me energy, but then I couldn't sleep at night, and I was getting so tired in the daytime, and it totally messed me up. I love my kids so much. I'm so sorry they have me as a mother.
Later in the season, Tom is offered a promotion that will keep him away from home a lot more than he already is, and Lynette doesn't want that, so she does sabotage him, and he doesn't end up getting the promotion. He finds out that Lynette is a reason why he didn't get the promotion, and his response is to quit his job and tell Lynette that she's gonna have to go back to working full-time and he's gonna stay home with the kids. So a little background information, the way they actually met was that they were co-workers at this advertising agency. So Lynette does have a background in working in advertising, so it wouldn't be too much of an issue for her to go back to work. But the issue is that Tom thinks that being at home with the kids all day is easy work, so he's gonna stay at home with the kids now and she's gonna go back to work. So that's kind of how her season ends. Like I said, she doesn't really have the most complicated storyline this season. She's kind of the most calm one, but her stories get crazy as the seasons go on. So let's go on to the next person, which is Gabrielle Solis, aka Gabby. Her main storyline this season is her rocky relationship with her husband Carlos and her affair with her underage gardener John, played by fine as Jesse Metcalf. That man is fine, and I've been seeing pictures of him lately. He's still fine. Like, John Tucker must not die because he needs to be with me. After a bunch of close calls of getting caught, Carlos ends up calling his mom, Juanita, to come stay with them for a bit to help him in finding out if Gabrielle is having an affair on him or not. Juanita ends up catching Gabby and John hooking up. She takes a photo and she tries to run away. As she's running away, she ends up getting hit by a car and put into a coma. We will talk about this plot point later. She eventually wakes up from the coma and she remembers everything, but as she's in the hospital trying to find a phone to call Carlos, she ends up falling down a flight of stairs and dying. I don't know why I'm smiling saying this, but it's kind of funny. It's also even funnier because it took me a while to realize this, but the woman who plays Carlos's mother is the same woman who played Yolanda in the Selena movie, and we all know how we feel about her, so... The actress, wonderful lady. She's eligible for parole in like 2025. They better not let her out because the public is not going to be happy. After a mix-up at a charity fashion show where John's mom thought Susan was the one hooking up with her son, Gabby ends up telling her the truth. John's mom, which her name is Helen, overheard John and his friend Justin talking about how John is hooking up with this hot married housewife. So she was already on the prowl trying to figure out who it is, and she ended up thinking it's Susan when it's actually Gabby. And Susan is actually the only person who ends up finding out that Gabby is hooking up with John after catching them playing footsies while prepping for this fashion show.
You have to promise not to tell anybody.
Gabrielle, he's in high school and it's illegal and you're married. If Carlos found out, this would kill him.
It's just sex. It's totally harmless.
How can you call something like this harmless?
Gabby ends up telling the truth to Helen, and she is not happy about it one bit. The police show up and Gabby thinks it's for her, but it's actually for Carlos, who is being arrested for illegal business practices. Carlos is soon released on house arrest while waiting for his trial. So the hospital that Carlos's mom was staying at ends up offering Gabby a settlement check because no one was properly watching Juanita while she was walking around the hospital all willy-nilly looking for a phone. And Gabby ends up taking it since a lot of their things were repossessed once Carlos was arrested, and also their bank accounts were frozen, so they didn't really have any money. And Gabby is not the working type. She tries to go get some jobs, but they do not work out, so she takes a settlement check. And the hospital comes to the house to deliver the settlement check, but Carlos ends up answering the door, and he's pissed because they could use the money to help his case, you know, hire some good lawyers. But Gabby feels like they can use the money to rebuild their life once he's released. But Carlos worried that, you know, once he goes to jail, Gabby's just gonna take the money and leave. He literally like forces her to sign a post-nup, like grabs her arm and forces her to sign the papers.
Stop! You're hurting me, Carlos!
Sign it. Sign it!
Carlos wants to have a kid with Gabby, but Gabby does not want kids, and this is something that they agreed on prior to them getting married, so he's low-key switching up. And since Carlos and Gabby are both very toxic for each other, but since Carlos is the most toxic, he ends up messing with her birth control pills and placing placebos, like pills that don't do anything, and Gabby ends up becoming pregnant. Gabby is unsure of the paternity of the child because even though she ended the affair with John after his mom found out, they soon rekindled it and they've been hooking up for, you know, as long as they've been rekindled. Gabby ends up telling John that she's pregnant, and John's like, you know, I want to take care of this baby, I want to be in the baby's life. But Gabby's like, John, it doesn't matter if you are actually the biological father of this child, you're not going to parent this child. Carlos is going to be the dad no matter what. And John is upset about this, obviously. At the end of the season, Carlos is on trial, not only for the illegal business practices, but also because of 2 hate crimes, because he beat up 2 gay men. Now, Let me explain. So the first gay man he beat up was early in the season when the cable guy came to fix their cable late at night, and Carlos believed that this man was actually hooking up with Gabby, and he goes to his house and beats up the guy. But after he beats him up, he looks around his apartment and just notices gay shit, and he's like, "Are you gay?" And the cable guy's like, "Yes." And Carlos just runs out. So that was one. And then the second one was when Gabby actually ends up finding out that Carlos was tampering with her birth control pills, and she ends up leaving. And as she's leaving, Carlos is like, what about my baby? And she's like, "Who said you're the father?" She pretty much like insinuated that he could possibly not be the father, and he's pissed.
Hey, we're a family now. This baby needs its mother and its father.
Oh, Carlos. Whoever said you were the father?
So he follows her, ignoring the fact that his, ankle monitor is beeping. He follows Gabby. Gabby ends up going to John's apartment that he shares with his friend Justin, who's gay. And there's actually a plot point in one of the episodes where Justin finds out he's gay, but it's not that important. John's roommate, Justin, is gay. Justin's the only one there. Carlos sees Gabby hugging Justin, and this makes him think that he's the guy that, could possibly be the father of the baby. He beats him up. Turns out Justin's gay, so now he's arrested for a hate crime. But Gabby goes on to testify for him in court and tells the judge that he's not, a homophobe. He doesn't hate gay people. He's just a jealous man who thought that I was hooking up with these two men who just happened to be gay. So the judge throws away the hate crime charge, but he does end up going away for the illegal business practices. And as the, trial is coming to an end, John ends up walking into the courtroom, goes behind Carlos and tells him that I've been sleeping with your wife. He goes on a rampage and they start attacking each other in the courtroom, and Gabby's just like, oh fuck. And that's where Gabby's season ends. I feel like the one POC main cast member on the show having this ghetto ass storyline of hooking up with her underage gardener and not knowing who her baby daddy is, and her actual husband going to jail is kind of crazy, but it's insane. But it made good TV. So let's go on to the next person, which we're going to be talking about Miss Queen Bree Vandekamp, my icon, my legend. I love Bree. She is my favorite. Spoiler alert, but she's an icon. Let's get into her story. Her main storyline this season is her marriage struggles with her husband Rex and her issues with her kids Andrew and Danielle, but primarily Andrew. So her family kind of resents her because she is quote unquote too perfect. And it is true, like she tries to put on this facade not only to like people in the town or in the street, but to her family that they are this perfect, cookie cutter family. She cooks these grand meals every night. She is like typical like Stepford wife. She cooks, she sews, she irons, she cleans. She has this immaculate garden, and she's kind of like a robot. But I love Bree. I just love Bree so much. She's an icon. So one night they're having like this luxe meal, and Andrew's like, we always have to eat freaking cuisine. How do you say that fucking word, cuisine? I don't fucking know. You always have to eat these fancy meals every night. Why don't we just have regular food? So one night they go out to like this regular ass restaurant, and while at the restaurant, Rex asks Bree for a divorce. Before they fully go through with the divorce, they end up trying to work out their marriage by going to a counselor, but that ends up not working out.
Bree and I are in marriage counseling. Everyone knows our secret now. Did the sky fall? Has your life come crashing down?
Rex cries after he ejaculates.
Rex ends up moving out into a motel, and after a while they try to work on their marriage again, but as Rex and Bree are having sex, Bree notices that Rex's burrito is about to drip onto the floor, and Rex is like, ignore it, but Bree ends up not ignoring it and stops midway to clean it up. And this is kind of like the reason why Rex is over Bree, because she can't just let things, happen. She always has to make sure everything is perfect, and Rex doesn't like that. Rex ends up gifting Andrew a new car, and now that Rex and Bree are like separated, Andrew wants to move in with Rex, his dad. But Rex is like, no son, you need to go back home with your mom, like this isn't gonna work. Andrew feels like he's being, discarded, so he ends up going out, getting drunk, driving home, and as he's driving home, he ends up hitting someone. And who is that person? Juanita Solis, Carlos's mom, Gabby's mother-in-law. So, the person who ran over Juanita was Andrew. And this is a plot point that is not gonna be brought back. Well, it's gonna be fixed. Let me explain how they fix it. So, he goes home, tells his mom, Bree. Bree calls Rex to come over so they can figure out how they're gonna handle this. And they end up coming up with a plan where they're gonna take Andrew's car, go to a really bad part of town, leave the door unlocked with the keys in the ignition, hoping someone comes by and ends up stealing the car. This plan works. The car's stolen, they're all clear, this situation is handled. But Bree is a little worried because Andrew doesn't seem to be showing any remorse for what he's done, and she is now worried for like his mental state.
Why do you care?
Because I need to know that you're not a monster. Andrew, you almost killed another human being.
She's an old lady, okay? She's lived her life. I have my whole life ahead of me, and now it might be screwed up. That's what you should be worried about.
That's pretty much the end of this story. And I mean, we kind of get little inklings of like them talking about Juanita and, you know, things like that. But this storyline is actually not gonna be like fully resolved until season 7. Like, I do plan on doing videos on every single season, but I just want y'all to know this, that Carlos isn't gonna find out that Andrew is the one who ran over his mom until season 7. Season 7, but you know, we'll get there when we get to the season 7 video. We find out Rex is having an affair with a woman named Maisie Gibbons who performs BDSM on him. While being dominated, Rex has a heart attack. Bree goes to the hospital and sees that Maisie signed his admission forms, and Maisie confirms to Bree about their affair.
As of this moment, Rex, I am no longer your wife. I am gonna go out and find the most vindictive lawyer I can find, and together we are going to eviscerate you. I am gonna take away your money, your family, and your dignity.
After Bree finds out about the affair with Maisie, she wants nothing to do with Rex. She is completely over him. She fully wants a divorce now. And after some emotional manipulation by Andrew, Bree ends up letting Rex stay at the house while he recovers from his heart attack. And to make Rex jealous, Bree ends up asking out their pharmacist, George Williams, out on a date, and he accepts. She brings him around the house. Rex is like, oh my god, get this man out of here. But yeah, Bree is now dating this guy named George Williams, the pharmacist. He's important for next season, really, and a little bit of this season, but also mostly next season, but we'll get into that in a future video. So Andrew ends up finding out about Bree dating this man George, and he's really pissed because he's like, why are you dating some guy when, you know, you're married? But Bree ends up telling him about, you know, his dad cheating on her, and in a rare bright spot for Andrew, he actually sympathizes with Bree and is like, okay, why is he even here if he cheated? Like, why did you let him stay here? And she's just like, you know, I'm just trying to do the good thing, but yeah, me and your dad are no longer together. So once Rex admits to the fact that he kind of misses her, he fucked up, he wants to start over, Bree agrees. They work on their marriage once again, and she ends up ending things with George, which pisses George off. George is heated. No Beyonce. Not only does Andrew get drunk and drive and run over people, he ends up getting expelled from school. He continues to act out, and Bree feels like that he needs to be sent to like this detention boarding school type thing, like to work on his issues. And Rex is like, you know, I don't think we really need to do that. You know, he's just a teenager going through a phase. But Andrew ends up getting physical with Bree at one point, and this sends Rex over the edge, and he ends up agreeing to sending Andrew away.
Please, I'm sorry, Mom, please.
It's gonna be okay, I promise.
No, this was your idea.
Well, you little... Stop it. No matter what you say or do, I will always love you.
While visiting Andrew at this detention center thing, I don't know what to call it, but while going to visit Andrew, he comes out as gay, much to Bree's dismay, because up until this point we know that Bree is like this super conservative, super religious woman, so her son being gay is like literally a shot in the heart. They end up pulling Andrew out of the boarding school, which was actually all boys, and invites their priest over to talk to Andrew and to pray the gay away. Andrew peeps this and he's not having it. He leaves the dinner table, and Bree is just like, I'm worried that you're gonna go to hell, like you need to do this. And this is kind of like a turning point. I mean, Andrew's already been kind of a menace, but he's gonna become a super menace after this because he feels super hurt by his mother. Rex has been kind of going through it health-wise this season. I don't think I've mentioned at the beginning. I completely forgot to mention this. Oh shit. But when Rex asks Bree for a divorce very early on in the season, I'm pretty sure this happens in the pilot. They're out to dinner at that restaurant I was telling you guys about, and because she couldn't like believe that he just said that, she kind of ignores that he asked for a divorce and goes to the salad bar to make him a salad. As she's making his salad, she ends up getting distracted by one of the neighbors who comes up to talk to her, and she puts onions in his salad. She gives him the salad, he eats it. He has an allergic reaction because he is allergic to onions, and he's in the hospital for a little bit. So he was in the hospital for the allergic reaction, and he went to the hospital for the heart attack. And as the season goes on, he progressively gets sicker and sicker to the point where he has another heart attack towards the end of the season and is back in the hospital. At the hospital, Rex's doctor tells him that he is being poisoned and he has a high amount of potassium in his system, which is what's causing these heart attacks. And Rex, because him and Bree has been going through a lot, he believes that it's Bree that's been poisoning him. He ends up having another heart attack that ends up being fatal, but as he's having this last heart attack, he writes out a note that says, "Bree, I understand and I forgive you," and he croaks. He dies. Bree, who's at home cleaning, gets a call from the hospital to tell her that Rex died, and she keeps her composure on the phone. She hangs up, she finishes her cleaning, and then she sits down at her perfect dining table and breaks down into tears. So who was the one that was poisoning Rex? Was it actually Bree? It wasn't Bree. It was George. Yep, the pharmacist that Bree dated for a bit but left. So George was very upset that Bree went back to Rex. As I mentioned, he's a pharmacist. He's both of their pharmacists. He was poisoning Rex with his prescriptions. He would go in there with his prescriptions. He would give him these potassium pills that was increasing the potassium in his system, and that's what led to him dying. George is the one who does it, but we don't know that yet. Bree doesn't know that yet. We're not gonna get more into this until season 2, so look out for that video. But now we're gonna go on to the final housewife before we get to the main mystery, which is Susan Meyer, because she has the most connection to the main mystery because of her connection to another character that we're going to talk about in her section. So Susan is the only one not to be married, as she is recently divorced from her husband Carl after finding out about him having an affair with his secretary. Let's talk about one thing because you know, when people step out on their partner, which step out sounds very old, but when people cheat on their partner, we just call it cheating. But they use the word affair a lot, which is so much classier, which I feel like we should start saying that now. Like, you know, Ariana Grande and her new boyfriend, they were having an affair. I think, I don't know. Not too much on Ariana though. Like, I know a lot of people don't like her because of that. I just really don't care. Yes, and so Susan's overarching story this season is her budding romance with new neighbor Mike Delfino, and also her rivalry with another neighbor named Edie Britt. So Edie is described by Mary Alice herself as a slut. I mean, she said it, not me.
Welcome to Wisteria Lane.
Susan had met the enemy, and she was a slut.
I love Edie. She's like my second favorite character. She's kind of like a recurring character in season 1, but she has more of a major role in later seasons. Even in the promotion, like if you watch a lot of season 1 promotion, you'll only see Bree, Susan, Lynette, and Gabby. But starting with season 2, Edie is in the promotion. She's on the posters and stuff because she becomes more of a main character. But in season 1, she's kind of minor. So in the pilot episode, Susan accidentally burns down Edie's house after she snuck in believing Mike was there, and she accidentally knocked over a candle. Nosy neighbor Martha Huber, who Edie is staying with while her house is rebuilt, finds out that Susan has something to do with Edie's house fire and begins blackmailing her. But Susan ends up stealing the evidence that she had on her, ending the blackmail.
Are these together?
Bring it up.
Martha Huber, the neighbor who, you know, was blackmailing Susan, ends up being murdered. But yeah, Martha Huber ends up murdered, and you know, not too many people liked Martha because, as I mentioned, she is very nosy and gets into people's business. But her only friend was really Edie, and after her body is cremated or whatever, Edie wants to spread her ashes at this lake, and Susan ends up going with her. And as they are on this lake, Edie is talking about how much of a good friend Susan's being and blah blah blah, and Susan, feeling an immense amount of guilt, ends up blurting out that she is the reason why her house burnt down because she started a fire.
Thank you, Susan.
Edie, I burned your house down.
Huh?
I was scared that you were sleeping with Mike, and so I let myself in and I snuck around. I accidentally knocked a candle over and the whole just... I'm so sorry.
And when they get back to Susan's house, Edie's like, I'm not gonna go to the police because that's just gonna delay my house being rebuilt, but I'm gonna hose you down so that Martha's ashes live on your yard. And that's what she does. So that's all I'm going to talk about for Susan's section, because like I said, she has so much to do with the main mystery of the season because of her connection to Mike, who has a lot to do with the main mystery. So let's talk about that. So the mystery of the season, as mentioned earlier, is neighbor Mary Alice Young's suicide and the reason for it. Mary Alice was being blackmailed as the ladies found a note at the end of the pilot saying, "I know what you did, it makes me sick, and I'm going to tell." Also in the pilot episode, we meet Mary Alice's husband Paul and their son Zach. And Paul is very sus because we see him digging up this toy chest from underneath his pool, and then we later see him... My stomach is growling like crazy. Oh my god. We later see him placing the toy chest in this lake, like singing it. But the toy chest ends up resurfacing, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Meanwhile, Mike Delfino, who is the new neighbor and Susan's love interest, is on the lane looking for someone for a man named Noah Taylor. Paul ends up discovering after hiring a private investigator that Martha Huber was actually the one who wrote that note to Mary Alice. He confronts her. She confesses to it with no remorse. This pisses off Paul so much that he ends up strangling her to death. Martha's sister Felicia ends up coming to the lane after hearing about Martha's disappearance, and her body is soon found, which leads to Susan confessing to Edie about burning down the house, blah blah blah. We talked about this already. Felicia is at Paul's house and she looks at a photo and recognizes Mary Alice, but calls her Angela. I mentioned earlier that Bree and Rex went to a counselor to work on their marriage issues, and one time while Bree is at the counselor's office, she's looking around and she sees a tape that's labeled Mary Alice. Curious, she ends up stealing the tape and she plays it with her and the ladies, and she finds out in that tape that Mary Alice's real name is not Mary Alice, and that is Angela.
So what do you think the significance of the name Angela is?
Actually, that's my real name.
Her real name?
Bree, what does it say on the rest of the tape?
Just more about her nightmares and this girl she was afraid of.
So what the hell do we do now?
I think we should show Paul the note.
Now this was earlier on in the season, but I guess I'll mention it now because it's important now that Felicia's here because she recognizes Mary Alice as Angela. So Paul is now worried that Felicia is on to him, so he ends up planting Martha's jewelry at Mike's house, and it is soon found and Mike is put in jail. Susan is the one that turned Mike in after Lynette's kids stole the jewelry from Mike's. So the jewelry is actually found by Lynette, but it's because her kids were stealing around the neighborhood and some of the things they stole were Martha's jewelry, and when she asked them where they got it from, they told them that they got it from the new neighbor Mike's house. So Lynette goes to Susan about this, and Susan, who was already kind of sus about him because of some crazy shit that was been going on, including him being shot after breaking into someone's house and then going on a date with Susan with the gunshot and passing out. She's very sus on him, so she ends up telling the cops about it and Mike goes to jail. The police inform Susan of Mike's past, being that he was in jail for 5 years for manslaughter. Susan is actually able to get Mike out of jail as the date and time of Martha's murder coincided with the first time she and Mike had sex, and she uses that as an alibi to get Mike out, but she still breaks up with him because of his very jaded past. Susan hires a private investigator herself to look into Paul, as she has been the most suspicious of him of all the ladies, but the private investigator that she hires is the same one that Paul hired. So the private investigator tells Paul that, you know, one of his neighbors, Susan, hired him. So Paul tells him what to tell Susan. Susan doesn't really seem to believe too much of it, but she goes along with it, and she asks the private investigator to also look into Mike. And in his file, she sees a photo of this woman named Kendra and also an address. So Kendra is the daughter of Noah Taylor, who, remember, is the guy that Mike is working for to look for information for someone on Wisteria Lane. And the person that he's looking for information on is a woman named Deidre Taylor, which is Noah's daughter, Kendra's sister, and Mike's ex-girlfriend. The toy chest that Paul dumped into the lake is found by the police, and Paul is questioned by it, but he ends up being saved by Zach because Zach tells the police that his toy chest broke years ago after he stood on it. I haven't talked much about Zach in this section or at all in this video. He does have a lot going on in season 1, but I'm really trying to stick to the important deets, like the very important deets of the season, and he has a lot going on. Like, he goes to a mental institution. Susan and Julie go to talk to him there. He gives them some information about Dana, Dana, they're like, what the fuck is Dana? Zach breaks out of the institution and is staying in Julie's closet. Like I said, he has a lot going on, but I'm really trying to stick to the most important details. So inside of the toy chest, the police found the dismembered body of a woman, and the woman is Deidre Taylor, which is the person that Mike was looking for this entire time. And Mike is very upset about it because, like I mentioned, Deidre was Mike's ex-girlfriend, and he's sad. Felicia knows Paul's secret, and she discovers that Paul killed Martha, so she sets it up to where Mike can kill him. So now that we know that Deidre was found dead in the toy chest that Paul owned, I feel like I can now tell you guys the full story, because a lot of stuff do happen, but like I said, it's not that important. The finale ends up being Mike pretty much kidnapping Paul, taking him to the middle of the desert and being like, okay, tell me the truth, tell me what's going on. Paul tells him, and this is the story. So Mary Alice and Paul lived in Utah, where Mary Alice worked at a drug rehab clinic as a nurse, as well as Felicia, because that's how she ends up knowing who Mary Alice / Angela is. Mary Alice finds out she can't have kids, which is very devastating to her. Deidre was a drug addict at the clinic that Mary Alice worked at, and one night she shows up at Mary Alice's house and offers them her baby for money so she can, like, presumably buy drugs. Mary Alice, who is super desperate housewives, super desperate for a kid, accepts, and she pays Deidre for her baby, which the baby's name is Dana. Later, Deidre comes back to the clinic after an overdose, and Mary Alice is worried that people will start asking about her baby, so she and Paul leave Utah, change all their names, and moves to Wisteria Lane. About 3 years later, Deidre finds them and demands her baby back. They refuse, and a struggle ensues that ends with Mary Alice stabbing Deidre, killing her. Mary Alice then chops up Deidre's body, puts it into a toy chest, and they bury it in their backyard, and then they build a pool over it. So after Paul tells Mike all of this, Mike decides not to kill Paul, but to leave him in the middle of the desert stranded. Bruh, I'm not sure how I managed to forget this huge detail, like this huge bomb, but I did not say that Mike figured out that, you know, he did some quick maths. He had like receipts, proof, timelines, screenshots, whatever Heather said on the finale of Real Housewives. And he put it together that Zach, Dana, is his son. So Zach is Mike's biological son. And I just completely forgot to mention this huge detail, but here I am doing it like a week later after I finished editing the entire thing. So yeah, keep that in your brains. Mike ends up going back home to his house on the lane. But what he doesn't know, that Zach, who at this point was drugged by his dad to get him to move off the lane, but then Felicia found Zach drugged and took him in, and then she was like, Paul, you're not taking him, you're not gonna have him on the run like you should just leave. Paul leaves. Felicia has Zach. Zach's like, where's my dad? Felicia's like, I can't tell you, he just dropped you off here. He's pissed. He beats up Felicia with a hockey stick, takes his mom's gun, and then goes to Mike's house because he has a strong inkling that Mike has something to do with it. But Mike wasn't there. Susan was there because Susan was dog sitting and was feeding Mike's dog. So now Zach has Susan hostage at Mike's house, and Mike is on his way there. So the season literally ends with Mike pulling up to his house and walking into his home, not knowing that Susan is there being held hostage. So that is season 1 of Desperate Housewives, and I pray to the gods on earth that I summarized this season pretty well. If I didn't, I'm still gonna put this video out, but I really want suggestions on how I can do better at videos like this, because I suck. I suck at telling stories in general. So me having to talk about this show that I have seen like 5 times, it's still hard. I still have to have a script. Like, I'm not good at it, but I try my best. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, I'm gonna be doing a video on every season. Don't know how often they're gonna come. Maybe every few weeks to start off the year. I don't know. More is gonna come because I love this show so much. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. And I will see you guys next time. Adios.